Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Hey everybody, it's Tuesday night, which means another live Wicked Horror Show. I'm Kevin, and as always, I'm joined by Tony.
What is going on, people?
And Tony, would you like to introduce our very special guest?
Sure, I would. She is an actress, a director, a producer, someone with many hats. You might know her from Terrifier, Samantha Scaffidi. How are you?
I'm good. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Did you say?
Thank you for coming on.
Did you say that the last name correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
I figured if anyone was going to get it right, it would be him.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I'm horrible with names, so
yeah.
Well, most people butcher my name, so it's totally fine.
So we know you from Terrifier. For those who haven't seen Terrifier, what are you waiting for? I mean, that's one of the things that, like, I talked to, when we talked to other people from the movie, were you expecting it to kind of be what it is? Like, it really kind of
no
blew up.
I feel like I always make this joke, and I can say it because I love Damien now and I love everyone from the movie. But when I saw the script, I was like, I was challenged. I was like, do I want to make something that's so violent? Because I didn't understand at the time that I was reading very much a genre script.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, oh, no one will see it. Like, worst comes to worst. Like, just put it away. And then it ended up being the one thing that everyone's, I feel like,
oh yeah. As soon as it hit Netflix, it was like, whoa, like it just blew up.
Yeah, I think once it went on Netflix, it just kind of went.
Yeah, and the thing is, even before it, like, I knew of All Hallows Eve with the short, and it's funny. I no offense to the guy who played Art in the first incarnation, but I've said it to Damien and to David. I was just like, as soon as I saw it, like with Terrifier, I'm like, wow, this dude really stepped up his game. Like, he really knocks it out of the park. And I'm like, it's a different guy. I'm like, oh, okay, that's why. Like, because he really can't tell.
His height, he got taller, shorter. Yeah,
he just really stepped up his game. But yeah, it's one of those movies that, like, it's just the cover alone will grab you. Then you watch it, and it's just a cool character. Like, it's something where there's other clown movies out there, but there's a lot of the same kind of clown movies. This is definitely not one of them, and I'm a fan of some of them, but this is it's a different thing, and I'm happy for everyone that's involved, because it's kind of like a from the ground floor up kind of deal. And then you're doing conventions and stuff like that as a Terrifier.
I mean, it's a testament to Damien. I mean, David especially playing Art the Clown, but Damien and his vision from day one. I mean, I think he always knew he had something really special, and he just always stuck to his guns and just kind of, and he's worn so many hats to just make it even possible to even do it. I mean, he barely sleeps, I feel like, ever.
I can imagine, yeah.
But then I remember we were at the convention in Jersey recently, and I was like, Damien, like, look around, like, we're all here because you, like, even just seeing the Terrifier banner on the back of the wall was just so surreal. We shot it in like 2016, so it was kind of
I don't know, it's crazy. And the thing is that it's opening the doors for so many people that are involved too. Like, David's able to get, he's getting a lot of stuff because he's Art the Clown, and that's the thing too. Is everyone that I've met, I mean, I don't think I've ever met you at a con. I know Tony has. I've met some of them, some of the cast in like crew, even from other things or whatever, at shows, and everyone's just so cool about it. Like, everyone's just like, it's still early enough where no one's jaded yet,
Yeah. Oh, I feel like, it's a weird, it was also something that came up in Jersey, because I think it was the first time in a long time we were all kind of together. We'd all had kind of either not been together with some people, or collectively we had randomly been with people. Damien here, David there, even like the Fuzz guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like to bring us all together in one event. I was like, I said to Damien, I was like, everyone's just really fucking cool. Like everyone's just so humble and just happy to be there, and like, and even with the success of it, that hasn't changed, which I think is pretty awesome. If anything, it humbled people more, which I didn't know was possible. But
yeah, and the one thing too is like when people are that cool about it, like when you, I'm like rooting for them, like the Fuzz on the Lens guys. Like I met them. I met them at a convention. It was a booth for them. It wasn't a booth for Terrifier. And I was like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I was in Terrifier. I'm like, what? He's like, I was the cop. I'm like, what? Yeah. I'm like, this is crazy. And like they were just so like friendly and cool. I'm just like, I want these guys to succeed. Like totally.
It's like one happy, weird family where we like know each other. We know better than others, but like weirdly together, it feels like we all know each other very well, even if we know each other for a limited time.
Yeah.
But them especially, like they're so involved with Terrifier, especially the second one, and then Damien's involved in their film. So it is like this community of like, cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
People, and it's really awesome. I mean, to feel like you can collaborate and be safe in an environment. So
yeah.
And that's what like indie film is nowadays too, especially, we've had people from like Canada and they have their own little section where like everybody, works with each other and they do different movies. So it seems like this is another little pocket of, people working on each other's films or helping each other out. And I'm still new to conventions myself, but I can't say that I've seen many where like you had a whole room to yourself. Maybe you'll have like a few people here and there, but literally it was like the one whole section was like Terrifier related, where you took over that entire room, and it's just like, okay, I can just go down the line, get signatures, meet everybody. It was awesome.
It was so cool. It was so cool to be all together, because that was my second con ever, and then the one I had, first one was like the week before, and that was a lot smaller of a con. And I was just there with the Fuzz guys, but to be next to like Jenna and Catherine, Damien and David and them and even Matt, who I hadn't seen Matt since I think we did the scene together in 2016. Like we had seen each other on like a Zoom when we did like this VirtueCon, but that was like the last time. So it was just as surreal, I think, for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, like he said, that's pretty awesome that they had you guys all like together, but at the same time too, like I personally, like when I go to a con, I almost like it mixed up a little bit,
Yeah. Oh, really? Why is that?
I don't know. I mean, I just because like if I'm hanging out in one area all day long, I might miss something else,
True.
Plus there's other people. I mean, there's people that are in the new one that were at the New Jersey con, and it's like Felissa was there, so she's in the new one. So I don't know how far away she was from you guys or whatever.
Well, this was Chiller. And then New Jersey,
okay.
She was at New Jersey Horror Con.
Okay, yeah. Because I was like, I may have met Melissa. You said?
What's that?
Did you say
Felissa Rose?
Oh, Felicia. Okay, Felissa. Oh, I haven't met Felissa. No.
Oh no.
It was interesting. Like I said, I've never been to conventions really before, so I have nothing to compare it to. But it was like weird because it was like we did feel like we were in like a special room.
Yeah.
It was, like very, off to the side. It was pretty big.
Yeah, Chiller is a pretty big con for sure. But that's probably the biggest con I've ever been to, aside from like Rhode Island Comic Con. Like, but that's a different thing. It's not a horror. There really isn't much horror at those. But but I do have to say the only cons, like the only time I've seen rooms all to themselves, it was pretty big deals. So that says something right there, because I went to one where it was all the Stranger Things kids.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
I went to another one where it was all Walking Dead people. So it's like, like an area that's all Terrifier. That's a pretty big, it's a big deal.
It was also strange because it was like, we're looking at and this is, I think, when you're struggling with like imposter syndrome, you're like looking at the guest list and you're seeing people from Platoon, Major League, and all these movies that like even like just certain actors that you're like, I grew up watching these people and they're being programmed, and to me that makes sense. And then to have your own room, and then to be one of like the the one horror film slasher films that even has a table, and let alone a whole room full of like different guests and different various roles. It was strange. I'm like, wow, this really, I guess, to program us, that must say a lot. So yeah, it's like a weird, like I said, it could go two ways, right? You can kind of take it and let it go to your head, or it can be humbling. And I feel like it was very humbling to just to meet people and to
yeah, and it's just people are psyched. Like I've been at shows where like they'll go up and I don't know if he did that chiller. I'm assuming he probably did, but he'll get in makeup and he'll come down and just like he'll scare people and stuff like that. It was so great. Like he would freak people out in the elevators. It was fantastic.
Wait, who did that?
David.
Did he?
Oh yeah. He'd sneak up behind people with the horn and beep them, and like he's like, "Oh yeah, we were in the elevator. The door just opened up, and some lady walked in and was like, oh, like she didn't know what to think, because he's just like in the corner staring at her."
You gotta be careful with that, because like not many people do know him, and when I was working with him, I was like, "Oh, I know David," and that's like the least scariest person you'll ever meet. But they did do it was a costume photo, but it was with Catherine, Jenna, and David. So they were all in in their original costumes from the original film, which is really cool.
Well, that's a funny thing, is because at these cons, it's you have the people that are there for the con, but then you have the people that are in the hotel just to like stay there. So you see people in like costumes and cosplay and stuff just walking through the halls, and these people are coming with their luggage and they're just like, what the hell is going on? So I if they don't look and see like, okay, there's a con going on this weekend, they're probably like either down for it, or I'm sure there's some people that are just so pissed that they're like, there's so many people walking around.
I feel like I would have walked.
What is going on here?
Maybe I'm just kidding. I probably wouldn't have walked out. I would have probably walked around, but I definitely feel like I could totally understand if people were like, no.
Oh yeah, there's been times that like my wife and I have rented like a hotel for like the weekend or whatever, just to get away, and then like there's a wedding going on, and there's just people partying all night, and was like, oh, this is a waste of money. This is ridiculous. Like, yeah,
literally. And people just take over. I know that like I ended up going to sleep early the 2 nights that I was there, because I'm an old person, but there were like tons of people like still in the lobby and taking over the bar in the lobby area, and I was it's all hours, and I'm like, oh damn.
Yeah, I'm the same deal. I never stick around for too late. I'm like, I gotta work in the morning. On Jesus.
That's how I felt. I was like, I gotta get up early. I gotta meet people. I've got to be at my best. Like, I've got to be able to hold a conversation.
Yeah. When you start to do more cons, you'll get the lay of the land. I'm sure, because people go out like every night, and it's crazy. Like, there was a lot of after parties where people will just do karaoke, and like there's videos that will like float around of like different horror celebrities singing like these songs that they just shouldn't be singing. Like, and it's a really good time. It's a really good time.
It's weird. I feel guilty, right? Because I'm like, oh, I want to be able to have fun and have those memories, but I'm also like, those kind of long days.
Well, you said you feel like you almost feel like an imposter because you see these people that you grew up like watching and respecting. And I feel the same way. Like when I go to a con, and if I'm somewhere and there's like a group of these like guests, like the celebrities hanging out, I'm like, I shouldn't be here. Like I just shouldn't. Like, some of them we've come to know fairly well, but at the same time too, I'm like, I don't want to bother them. I don't want them to be like, I regret meeting that guy. Like, I don't want to,
Well, look, I feel like if you can read social cues and
sometimes I can't.
I mean, like, none of us can, but I feel like there's like, you can navigate that. But I feel like at the end of the day, it's what I've realized is just from working with people, and you said people are people, and they hope to be treated like, people and human beings. So it's kind of like, it's nice when they can, it's nice to hang out with, people that you like, and not because necessarily they're this or that and done this and done
that. That's the thing, is like, I don't want them to be like, the only reason I'm hanging out here is because you are who you are. Like, and that's it. That's all it is. No,
I think like, hey, listen, we're all doing stuff, right? Like, we're all pretty accomplished. Like, we're like this. First of all, I love the intro to this thing.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, that was awesome.
No, that's one thing. Are you a coffee drinker? Not trying to push that the ground.
I'm not drinking coffee right now because it's too late, but tea right now.
But they do all the cons in this area as well. Like, were you at New Jersey?
I didn't go. I was supposed to go, and then Yeah, I had a few run-ins where I felt bad. They were like, "You're supposed to be at Jersey," and I was like, "I got booked."
Yeah, well, whatever. It's you got to work, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, you'll run into them at some conventions, and if you're a coffee fan, they have some great stuff,
Oh,
and
I
they've
love
Even if
been
you're
a
not a
supporter of us
coffee
for a
fan,
very
I've
long.
bought some.
Yeah. So you were saying before, like how you're not like there's a lot of people who are like huge horror fans, and that's how they get into it.
Yeah.
If you look at your IMDb, you haven't done a lot of you've done a lot of everything, like different genres. Like what got you to horror, and like what how was it something that was just there? Like some people just stumble into it. Some people like this is what I want to do.
Well, it's strange because like when I say I'm not a horror fan, I think like there's people who know the genre in and out, and and like Damien is definitely one of those, and to like say so when I like think of being a horror fan, I feel like it had to be at that level.
Hmm.
Um, I always loved and appreciated it growing up, but like I kind of like I love film in general, so it
Yeah,
doesn't matter the genre. If it's a good film, it's a good film. It's a good story. If it's good to me if it really has something to say or getting us to think. So it's like kind of the same thing with acting though, or any sort of role in storytelling or filmmaking. It really just is the story and what presents itself, and do I want to tell this one or that one? And for this specifically, it just so happened that I had worked with Gino Caffarelli on like a little spec shoot right out of school, and then when and Gino was one of the actors in the deli scene, and he when Damien asked Gino if he had any actresses he had recommended me.
oh
So that's
nice.
kind of how it fell into my lap, and then. But I had done weirdly, a horror film that I had went out to Ohio for a month. Like I just happened to start like weirdly acting in horror films, but yeah, I've kind of gone to different genres,
Yeah, well,
mainly dramatic, but
yeah. Well, that's the thing is there's a lot of it's good that you're doing that because there's a lot of actors that kind of get stuck. They get stuck. Like that's all they're gonna do is horror because they've done it for so long, and like no one's gonna give them a chance. So it's
maybe a
good.
good thing to get stuck in these days because
Well,
like
it
Mhm.
is,
yeah,
but
like
that's the thing though is like there's like horror icons like Kane Hodder who,
yeah,
he can act, like he's more than just a doorway of a man.
yeah,
He can act, and
yeah,
any chance he gets, he tries to like flex those muscles, and it's just like he wants
yeah,
to do more of it, but people just like, they book him because he's Jason,
yeah, yeah. I feel like that idea that you get stuck in the horror genre, that was always like a weird fear that got put into actors, like you don't want that, and then you realize when you're doing a horror film, you're like one of the most fun things to ever get to do, and it's
Hmm.
really there's a lot of like there's a lot. I have a lot of gratitude for being able to like do the things because you get to run around, scream, but also like dive into these really difficult emotional realities, like stumbling upon someone that you love is dead. Like what like to be able to go into morph into these roles and is like
Yeah.
a kind of gift in a lot of ways. But
Yeah, if as long as it's a good one. Like there's a lot of. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love horrible horror as well. There's some charm to it.
yeah,
Like
well, that's
it's
another genre in itself. It's like the
totally.
really bad ones that they're
Yeah.
so bad they're entertaining, but
I
not the
mean,
ones
like
that are trying to be good, but that are fun.
yeah, like the trauma stuff, like the Toxic Avenger and stuff like that. Like all of the early '80s, like just cheese, and then it's kind of inspired more cheese, and it's a
Yeah,
good time. I'm not
yeah.
gonna sit there and be like this changed my life. That's not gonna happen. So,
But
but
hey, it's serving something if you're,
exactly.
having a
And
good time, you're enjoying it,
right.
you're laughing, like, hey,
Exactly, and like you said, like you're a horror fan. I mean, you're a movie fan or a film fan in general. So like you can always kind of see some progression and stuff like that. We were talking about Heavenly Creatures beforehand.
yeah,
If like so, you look at movies that Peter Jackson does now. If you go back and watch his first three movies, they're blood and guts from one of them especially is blood and guts from corner to corner. Like the whole
And then the
movie.
other one's a freaking puppet.
Yeah, there's one it's like the Muppet Show, but like
yeah,
with Vietnam flashbacks and they're shooting porno in the basement, like that kind of stuff. But it's puppets.
yeah,
Um, so then he goes on to make things like Lord of the Rings, and
yeah. Well, I feel like I mean, I hope even in not just acting that you never limit yourself to a certain genre, right? It's like I write, so when I write, I'm not like, okay, I'm gonna write this horror film now, or I'm gonna write this drama, or I'm gonna write this thing. It's kind of like whatever the thing is that comes out,
Right.
And sometimes it looks and it fits in that genre, the horror genre. And to me it's not horrific, but anyone reading it on page is like shocked by it. But I think yeah, I feel like it's just staying true to like what it is in that time that you want to tell, and then who knows? And maybe it starts off like Peter Jackson, where it is kind of like that grotesque blood and guts, and then all of a sudden it's like fantasy and
Yeah.
but I definitely feel like there's that fear that gets put on, like you don't want to get pigeonholed. But like I was saying earlier, like I've noticed like, and I mean, not that there wasn't horror films being made before, but it's like seems to be like a massive surge of
Yeah.
horror films being made right now, and even just like celebrities that you know from the primarily dramatic roles are now also doing TV shows and features where there's big money and there's big stories to be told in that.
Yeah.
I mean, Nicolas Cage nowadays is literally everything I see him in his horror movies. So,
Yeah.
he, not that he was the greatest of actors beforehand, but he was in some of my, like, Con Air was one of my favorite movies.
Con Air,
You know, so the Rock, exactly. So he had some good ones, but now it's like, what is it? Willy's Wonderland and Mom and Dad and Mandy and all that stuff. So
when you talk about Nicolas Cage, my go-to is Raising Arizona. Like I don't like more of the comedic stuff. Like just I don't know. I'm not a big Nicolas Cage fan in general, but Raising Arizona is one of my favorites.
A lot of people either love him or they hate him.
Right.
But you can appreciate the work and the longevity of his career.
Yeah, and just how ridiculous he can be. And then people take him
it doesn't help that there's all those compilations of him screaming in movies.
But
yeah.
You know what? There isn't a pillow of my face that people can buy. That being said,
the one that like flies over, whatever.
He's got the last laugh. He's still working, and he's
exactly. There was actually this girl that I worked with a few years back, and she hated Nicolas Cage, and she loved Justin Timberlake, and she had a Justin Timberlake book that she bought that was on her desk, and she left it there when she went on vacation. We just printed out tons of pictures of Nicolas Cage and just hit him in different spots in her book, and they're all over her desk. And like,
what happened? Did she?
She was not happy, but whatever. She needs to take a joke.
Yeah, but I think the like surgence of horror movies is because of the Netflix and the Shudder and the just the availability now. I mean, back then I don't want to say it was like macabre or something to watch horror movies, but definitely back then if you said you were into horror, people looked at you like sideways, like I don't want to talk to this person. Well, they not as much.
You like horror too? I have been keeping this dirty secret.
There was same job that we hid the Nicolas Cage things. A different woman. She was disgusted at the fact that I enjoy horror movies. And she also was disgusted at the fact that I don't watch sports. She's like, I don't get it. How can you not watch sports? I'm like, it does nothing for me. I'm like, I would rather watch a horror movie.
That other people exist outside of like that our minds are not necessarily the other person's minds.
Well, that being said, if someone told me they don't listen to music, I would be pretty like, what? You don't listen to music? Huh? Like, how is that? Like, I don't know. But there's people that don't listen to music.
It's hard to comprehend if you're not yourself, someone who hates music or whatever it is.
But, yeah. So besides acting, you also direct and you write, like you said.
Yeah.
So what do you prefer out of all of these? Like Tony said, many hats. Which hat is your favorite? I don't know.
It's weird. I get like a different rush from both of them, or the different targets of them, the three things. I used to think acting was like the soul's purpose. It's like every time I go into a role, it's like this weird presence that all of a sudden, you're out of your head and you're in your body and you're connecting to something that you've not connected to or you've put away now that you've gotten older. So there's like a weird catharsis and a real beauty to that exploration.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of a sudden, directing kind of fell into my lap, and it was like all the marrying of all the things that I love. It was, acting, because to direct, when you're an actor, you can then sometimes role play with the person if they're the only person in the scene, or you know what the techniques are to help people to get out of their head. And then there's also the aspect of writing, which I was always doing and didn't know I was really a writer. I didn't really call myself a writer because I didn't formally go to school or any of that. Just like I didn't go to school for directing. So it's weird. Directing became like the one vocation that married all of the things together.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's something that's really powerful and exciting about the idea of like, I'm not just serving a story, but I'm actually also dictating that story that's being told in this moment. Obviously collaborating with so many people to bring it to life, but yeah, it's weird. I love directing, and maybe that's the thing right now that I fancy the most, but I also love writing and love acting. It's just a different need met.
Does it make it easier that you've done all three, or does it, like, when you're directing, do you have like your actors, I guess, mentality where you're like, I would do it a little bit different, or how does it work? Does it make it easier, or?
I think with acting, I feel the most like I did acting's weird. I did the foundation. I went to school. I did the 10 years, so there's definitely 10,000 hours in that. And then with directing and writing, it's like I'm just starting to learn the craft of writing, but I know the intuitive aspect of that, so that's really great. And directing, I'm still learning as a director. I've only been doing it for 2.5 years, and there's a lot of intuition that's at play, but there's also just a lot of learning and growing through that. But I would say that as an actor, or now a director who's an actor and has been an actor, once I give the role to someone, I usually I entrust them with it, and I try to get out of the way and let them find something that maybe I didn't think was possible, or for them to go somewhere that I may be blind to, that they may be able to discover on their own. But I think also I do usually know exactly what it is I want, so a lot of it is like working in that trusting relationship and creating an environment where I can get the best performance to get what I need for the overall vision of the story. So it's difficult sometimes because there's some things that I write that I'm like, I really want it to be this way. And I really want you to, because it's personal, right? To some degree. But then you also step back because you're like, that actually may ruin any chance of something better. And always there's something better to be had if you get the hell out of your own way.
Yeah, that's the one thing, like, I don't know. It's just as like an artistic person in any way. It's like, I don't get how, I mean, I guess it's directors that have been doing it for so long where just like the producers are telling me they want us to do this or we're going to do this. It's like, that's crazy. Like, it's just, it's weird to me. Like, there's so many things, like, for someone who loves movies and like the whole craft of making it, and I respect it, I still find out things all the time where I'm just like, what? Like, how is that? Like, I just figured, you're an artist. Here you go. Here's my movie the way I wanted it. And it's like, what?
No, not at all. I mean, you have control and you barely have any control. You know what I mean? So many things that can go wrong, and that go wrong. And then there's money, and then there's, hierarchies. But I weirdly try to listen to what the constraint is usually, because, like, for example, I was shooting a short film for Rain or PSA. And my producer was like, please, Sam, like, please, like, we don't have, like, we would need a SAG actor to do the background, and we don't really want SAG to come after us. And I didn't know that. I thought we could just use a non-union. And so he's like, so please, no one. And I was upset because I was like, oh, but there's this moment, it's written in the script, I need someone. And then I said, fine, I'll do it. Just make you happy, because probably what we're going to end up having to do anyway because of the rules of SAG. And then all of a sudden we did it, and I noticed something that I wouldn't have noticed if the actors were there, and I realized there was a more powerful moment for the performer without the other distraction. And we were able to find a really beautiful moment that was more powerful without what I had initially thought in my head.
Yeah.
And so I try to, like, let things breathe a bit. It's like you can get stuck in your ways, but then there's no room for anything to, like, grow or any magic to happen. And
yeah.
And listen, I could have done it and it was shit, and I've been like, no, I need the actor, and then we have to figure it out, and that's also a possible outcome. But
yeah. So like, you mentioned that was like on a PSA. You've directed a few PSAs, like some shorts. We have Wait and we have Bound. definitely want to get into it. But just real quick, Sergio wanted to make sure that we saw that he said hi.
Hey.
So Sergio, hi Sergio.
Oh, awesome! I see it.
Yeah, he's here. He's here every week. He's the man. He already knows this. But so yeah. So which one do you think we should play first between Bound and Wait?
Well, I'll let you guys choose.
All right, Tony, you choose.
Why are you giving me the hard decision?
Well, just say
we'll go with Wait.
Okay.
Love it.
We'll
All
go
right,
backwards alphabetical.
Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So here is the PSA for Wait. Here we go. There you go. So for those that are listening to the podcast, first off, that's it was very loud sounds. But,
Sounds like a very massive component of that.
oh yeah, totally. That's we were saying like a little like before we went live that like in order to like create that kind of suspense and that kind of emotion in a short period of time, there's something to be said for that. You know, like there's no dialogue at all, but you totally know what's going on. Like you can figure it out very easily, and it's very effective and jarring at times as well.
Yeah,
But yeah, that was good.
Because at that point in time, I mean, horror movies are its own thing, but real life sometimes, like stuff like that, is very horrific as well. I mean, doing that, I mean, it's just very powerful. Feeling it, it's like I've never gone through it myself, but I could just imagine someone who is, going through that, and just, don't know what to do, and then you hear all these sounds, and everything's just intensified and everything. So it's definitely very powerful.
So for those that are listening, it was a PSA. It's called Wait, or is it called Rain?
It's called Wait. Yeah, Rain is Rape.
Oh, it's the foundation.
National Network, and that's the foundation. And we made the first film called Wait, and that was in the series.
Yeah, it's a PSA like for people that have been affected by sexual assault, and just pointing out how with every minute that passes, like evidence is lost, basically. That and
Yeah.
that you need more people to be trained so people can do their job correctly.
Yeah, it's based off of many true stories, but that usually when people go to get rape kits at the hospitals, they have to wait long hours. And it was from a story in my 20s where a friend of mine called me to go to the hospital with her, and we waited 10 hours.
Jeez.
And it's because there's a shortage of SANE nurses, which is what we're bringing attention to, because there's underfunding, understaffed, and actually what we realized is that in order to become an SANE nurse, you have to pay for it yourself, and it's very expensive to go and pay for that. And I had a woman email me, a nurse, saying, I wanted to be an SANE nurse, but I have a family and it's hard to pay to do it. And so there's just that's why. And so it's just, that was what the discovery was for me in my later 20s when we made the film. In my early 20s, I just remember being in the hallway with my friend and observing everything and witnessing what was happening and being enraged because I didn't know why she had to wait that long. And
that is pretty insane.
Yeah, and it's just a tough reality where sometimes life feels sometimes more horrific than some of the horror.
Totally. I would think, just because I'm a guy and I've never had to deal with this kind of stuff, that wouldn't be the case. Like, in my mind, that's not the case.
And even like people who've never, women, or non-binary, or whoever hasn't experienced that and have never had to go to the hospital, or even people who maybe have experienced that but didn't go to the hospital, would not know that was, and I think that's the big discovery and why a lot of the work that I like to do is the PSA kind of world, nonprofit, because there's a lot of systemic failure, you realize, not only in sexual assault, the arena, and the hospitals and the precincts, and so many different degrees, and you're like, it's kind of a little depressing to realize that the systems that are set up to help are actually failing. But that's okay, because once you start to acknowledge that, you can maybe do something about it. You just got to empower people, and that's what storytelling can be one aspect of that, because it can bring attention to it, but also put you in the experience. So you make sure.
Totally.
Well, in life, I mean, it's tough, especially for someone who never experienced anything like that, to understand. But stuff like that, like Kev said, we've never dealt with that. But just that, minute and a half, it was just like I felt uncomfortable in that situation. So it's like okay, well, now
if you said that you felt completely comfortable, I would be like, Tony, we need to talk. There's something wrong with you.
The power of storytelling, and trying to do the best we can to bring these stories to life and do justice by them, because it becomes a really powerful to someone else's reality, and through that there's more awareness and more expansion, and that's why I love filmmaking or storytelling in general. But
I've said it a billion times on the show, and I'll say it again just because whatever. But if something's just well made, I'm just gonna dig it no matter what. And I saw a documentary that was extremely well made, and it was about quilting squares.
It's amazing.
I have zero interest in quilting squares. The documentary was awesome.
I'm so into now going against what I think I would enjoy. If it's something that I don't understand, I just got to give it a chance. Because even I saw that documentary on HBO. It was the 100-foot wave. It's about big wave surfing. And I grew up as an athlete, but I no offense to anyone who's a surfer, I just could care less. And partly is because I have this irrational fear of the ocean. So I'm just I don't care. I don't want to know. And then I watched that, and I'm like, I was so.
I think I want to go surfing. Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm good. I'm glad there really was no sharks mentioned. I don't think ever in that TV series. But I was also just brought into a world where I had my judgments and my ideas of why people, chase this big wave, and what my feelings about that were, and then I saw it, I heard them talking about it, and then I learned a bit about it, and I was like, oh wow, that's really moving, and there's some sort of life lesson in all this stuff. But I just,
there's I'm a sucker for a good documentary, just in general, especially since the whole pandemic thing, it's just like, all right, this makes me feel like I'm outside, but I'm not. But you know, but I don't know. It's just if it's well done. Some of them just really stick with you and they affect you, and it's like if you can do that, that's fantastic. Like I don't know. Do you have a particular documentary that you recommend to people? Is there one that's really affected you over the years?
Well, I have like a short-term memory, so I feel like I can. One that I was recommended to watch. Well, first I loved 100-Foot Wave, but one that I was recommended to watch that I just watched recently was called Of Fathers and Sons. Really hard documentary to watch. I don't even want to try to explain it because I just feel like I would somehow misinform or not do it justice because it's a really powerful one. But it's just Of Fathers and Sons, which I'll let people to just say watch it and try to keep an open mind. But with that, and then I don't think there's any other documentaries. I mean, there's so many. I just actually got into documentaries over the past few years. Yeah, but yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful to. I was going to go on a tangent, but I actually have a question. What are your documentaries that you? What should I be watching?
Well, I have two that really kind of affected me. And just real quick, Sergio's asking if Wait is on YouTube. Yes, it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
So go to YouTube and just search for Wait PSA, and it's there. So for me, there's one documentary called Crumb. It's about the artist R. Crumb. He back in like the 70s, he's the guy who did the Keep On Trucking like logo thing with the guy like walking with whatever. And he's a total pervert, and he's a weird dude, but his family's even weirder. Like just like it almost made me feel like, okay, this is a guy who is extremely successful and in his field, and he's got way more problems than I'll ever have. Like there's this guy that everyone had looked up to, and I'm just like, wow. No matter how many times I think my life is garbage, I can just throw that movie on and be like, I'm okay.
Yeah. Hey, how do you spell the
CRUMB?
Okay, Crumb, like that. Okay.
Yep, R Crumb. Yeah. And then there's another one that
we have this idea of like we put these people on pedestals and we fantasize and imagine who they are, and then realize that everyone's just going through their own struggle and are human, and some people suck more than others. But then they kind of weirdly that's why they say never meet your idols, because more times than not you'll be extremely
thankfully like my horror idols, I haven't been disappointed very much, but other like musicians and stuff like that, not so it hasn't always been so great. But
it's the most refreshing thing to meet someone who's really kind and humble in there and that platform. But sometimes you do
there's another documentary that my dad actually turned me on to later in life, even though it came out before I was even born. He just waited for me to be a certain age. It's
down just so you know.
There's a documentary called the Titty Cut Follies.
Was it called
Titty Cut Follies? Okay. I'm not exactly 100% sure how to spell it, but and it's a documentary. This guy like sneakily went into like the mental institutions in Massachusetts. And like he said he was there to do like some kind of weird little story that was going to be nothing, and he made this like documentary, full-length feature documentary about how poorly people are being treated in the mental institutions in Mass. Because of that movie was banned for a very long time, but because of that it made them like change like the way things were done in Massachusetts with the mental. My dad was a nurse for like the state forever. So he was working at those mental institutions at the time, and like when he started, they were still doing electroshock therapy. There's just rooms of like people that are just naked, like they're just we don't have clothes, and they're just like throwing waste on the walls, and there's like rapes and like all this. It's a crazy like depressing but just really well made documentary.
I love a good depressing anything because of my darkness, but I think it's like another testament to storytelling and filmmaking where you can shed light on an issue, and then when enough people watch it, then something can get done, and then there's progress.
Because that's the thing, is these people that were like made the changes knew it was going on. It just took someone saying like, "Hey, everyone else, this is going on." You know,
it's like everything, right?
I know,
it's like
crazy.
some people start screaming the loudest and really trying to make an effort, like, yeah, because change and having to do all these things is difficult, you know, for some people, but it's necessary, you know.
Right.
It's like it's so important to like create a better world and to just be humane. And but it's so sad that when you realize, like, when you start to look a little closer, a lot of those things, like we talked about, institutions are failing. And why is that? Where's the money going? You know, where are our priorities? And
yeah, and then there's a lot of people that like don't want to accept that people are not on the up and up all the time. They just don't want to accept that. So it's, you know,
hard to accept a lot of things. You know, it's hard to accept that like the systems are failing and that there's still a shortage of SAME nurses, even though we made that film and other things have been made in the past. You know, it's, and even to other degrees of just, systemic failure, where you're like, these things are still going on, and yet, you know, why is that? You know,
sometimes I just assume it's not going on, and I'll like comment like, that's still a thing, and people are like, yeah, it is. You don't know anything. It's like when it like the whole like wage difference between women and men. I'm like, is that really still a thing? And they're like, yes. I'm like, it is. I'm like,
sometimes we don't want to, you know, pretend, we want to pretend like it's not a thing. But
I've always worked in like, I've like all the fields I've ever worked in, I've always had like female like bosses and stuff, and I always looked at them like, I never thought of it that way. I always thought like, oh no, they're making the big bucks, but I'm like, I guess they're not. Like, that's crazy. Like,
or they're not making as much as maybe someone else would in that position. But it's I mean, like, it's like, unless it's you directly affected by it, generally we don't think about those things. You know, no one thinks about, if someone's not too, you know, crazy about healthcare reform, you know, and they don't care until someone gets sick and they need that. They're not really think, it's not on their radar, or they get sick, you know, it's not on their radar. You know, unless you've been affected by the systems and systemic failure, you know, you don't really find that pull to, you know, I mean, I have always been open about it, but I've been through my own experiences, and that's been a lot of the drive and why I do a lot of films specifically about systemic failure, because I myself experienced the system failing me, and I also experienced it failing my friend. So, you know, you go through a period where you get really dark and you get frustrated and you feel like there's nothing you can do, and then you just realize you just got to do something, and you keep, you know, keep doing the best that you can. But it's, like I said, until you are directly affected by it, it's hard to see those things or want to see those things.
Right. And
I guess that's why when certain documentaries I watch is the opposite way, because I know how crappy life is. If I'm watching documentaries like I Am Santa Claus with Nick Foley, where they follow like 4 guys that dress up as Santa Claus for like their jobs.
Wait, what's it called?
It's I Am Santa Claus. It's where it's literally where I think it's 3 or 4 people they follow that dress up for, you know, the Christmas season as your mall Santa or whatever, and then they show you what they do outside of that, like on the off-season kind of deal. And you got,
doesn't they talk about like the Santa cons? Like there's like conventions for like Santas. I just want to sneak into one.
It's just crazy how different each person is. Like you have like, I think one of them is a gay guy and one's all this. So it's all different, like the different lives that people lead. And then I'll watch, you know, the true crime stuff and just learn how crazy, like, you know, all these people have been. And then documentaries about like biographies, I guess you want to call it, like I Am Chris Farley, one of my favorite, you know, comedians of all time. And, you know, you look, like you were saying before, like everybody puts these people on a pedestal, but then you look at, you know, his life was, you know, going down the tubes, and not a lot of people knew it. I mean, there were some, but it's just crazy.
It just puts a lot of things in perspective, where you're like, you know, life is, I think, difficult for everyone to some degree, some in different ways, you know, and you just honor that we're all having our own experience. And look, I highly respect watching the docs that lift people up, because We need more of that.
Yeah.
We need more positivity. I mean, I just am more comfortable being in the darker spaces for some weird reason. But every once in a while, my friend will like coerce me into watching something funny, or and I'll have a laugh, and I'll be like, oh, I should have done that. Or I watch like a biography to be inspired by people that to motivate myself, because
going back in the day, like you would watch like for me, like on VH1 they would have the ones that about like musicians and stuff like that, and it's always like mostly the good stuff, And I'm like, oh, this is great, but then I'll watch something like that'll just be like, this destroyed me, and I'll be like, you need to watch this, because if I cried, I want to make you cry too. But
well, I want to see if you're human. I cried during this. Let's see how you react.
Oh my god, yeah. There's a few out there. Like I don't even like. I refuse to watch them in front of my wife, because I'm just like, I just don't want to. I don't want to lose it like that.
Wait, which ones are these? I want to know about.
Oh, there's one called Dear Zachary.
Oh wait, I've seen Dear Zachary.
It's wicked brutal, isn't it?
Yeah, because I don't want to give anything away. But
well, yeah. It's have you seen Dear Zachary, Tony?
It sounds familiar, but I might have left that in the backside of my head.
Away the actual thing, but yeah.
It really, like, especially like, I've watched it more than once. I don't know why, but I have, and it's like, because I think I wanted to see if someone else was affected by it as much as I was. But the first time I was like, oh my god, this is so horrible. Like, everyone's just trying to do the right thing, and it just ain't happening. Like, I don't know, it's just not good. But so yeah, we actually have to wrap up in a minute. We do have the other PSA. I think that one's only like a minute and some change. Bound. So yeah, let's play Bound. And this is another one you directed as well?
Yeah, this is a long time ago, a personal project I did, yeah.
Here we go. Here's Bound.
Domestic violence cases are on the rise. Another statistic, child abuse cases are down, which may sound positive, but the governor says it's attributed to less cases being reported.
They are all meant to keep you and others safe during the COVID-19 pandemic, but that is not the case for victims of domestic violence.
Can we not as hardly know? No, it's not the way to go. It only buys a week of silence, and it's silence I can bear the least. I'm your happy daughter, I'm your smiling girl. I meant all the world to you when you saw me first. Run a mile, run a mile, run a mile, boy.
To clarify,
yeah.
I said I directed it a long time ago.
Yeah.
I did direct it a long time ago, and then during the pandemic when we couldn't go out and film because we were being, keeping ourselves and others safe. Mick Flannery was an Irish singer who had a song that had to do with domestic violence.
Mm-hmm.
Me being very aware of domestic violence being on the rise because of my own, because that cause is close to the vest.
Mm-hmm.
I teamed up with him to reimagine that piece. And so we recontextualized it with COVID-19. And then we took a song that he did. We raised money in Ireland.
Oh, nice.
Locally off of the release of that song. So that's why I said that was a long time ago. And then I saw that was the COVID.
I was like, COVID-19, wait a minute.
Yeah. The time before that alternate reality.
Like forever, like however long domestic violence has been going on, which is it's been forever. So
for centuries and centuries, and
I don't know. I mean, it's again, it's one of those things where it's just like, I don't know. I guess it's a good thing that I'm not that jaded where I'm like, yeah, obviously it's still happening. Like, I mean, I know it's still happening, but you know what I mean? Like, in my mind, it's just like, why would someone even get to that point? Like, I don't understand. It's like, I would just walk out of the room, just leave, like as
Well,
a
that's a
guy,
good
I feel
thing
like,
you feel that way
yeah,
because that means that you're not having or
I'm not a
experiencing.
monster.
Yeah.
I am, but it's a different kind of
Yeah,
monster.
different kind of, like it's like the horror films are the outlet. Yeah.
I'm more like a cookie monster. So but yeah, so we have to wrap things up. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
And do you have any cons that people can go meet you at coming up that you know of?
I only know of one that's programmed, and it's next year in Manchester, UK.
Oh, nice.
2022, I think in October. They just announced it.
That's cool.
Which I'm really
And
excited
that's when
about.
you make it when you're now traveling overseas, where it's like, okay, well now now it's getting
I've never been to the UK, let alone London or anything. So I'm like,
I've always wanted to go. That's like one of my bucket list places is the UK. Like I love British TV. I love British comedy. Like I don't know why. This tea and crumpets. I don't know. I'm trying to think of other.
One of my best friends is British.
Oh yeah.
And I have a lot of British people in my life, and I love them very much. Their sense of humor and the way they pronounce things and words they use them.
Yeah, because we always think that they're wrong, but we're the wrong ones. They were there first.
Yeah, exactly. We don't have to. We can pretend that that's not true.
Yeah, exactly. But where do you like fans to keep up with what you're doing? Like, do you prefer like a particular social media?
I'm on Twitter, but I don't use it. It's just like there, I think, because I can repost when films come out. But Instagram is the one that I'm most active on. I think it's the only one that I'll probably hold on to and not add any more to my plate because social media can be a dark hole to.
Yep. So what is your Instagram handle?
It's my first initial last name, so it's S Scaffidi at me. S Scaffidi. I'll just give my email. It's like train of thought. S Scaffidi on Instagram.
Nice.
Yeah.
And anywhere else that just there?
Just there. I mean, that's where I make any announcements of anything getting released. But I have a website and my Vimeo is up, which is where I upload.
And if we're in the UK next year, go meet her in person at the school.
And maybe if anything else is announced, it will be announced definitely on Instagram.
Hopefully, you because you're in this part of the country, so it'd be cool. Like, I'm trying to get more out. Like, it's funny because I was for years I was like a almost weekly con goer, and now since the pandemic and everything, I've gone to like 2. And Tony's he's stepping up his game.
I'm the opposite.
Yeah, he's started going. He's like, I don't care about this.
I never really went to them before, but now since I guess they're a little less, like it was busy, but I think it's a little less busy because people are weary.
Definitely.
That I guess was a little bit more personable, I guess. Especially like Chiller was busy, but like New Jersey Horror Con felt like I'm like the rooms weren't packed or whatever. You could sit down and talk to the people, and it was just like, I'm digging this.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm a fan now. I never wasn't, but then I had just never been, and then really, it's like a lovely experience to meet people.
And people think, oh, it's a horror con, it must be terrifying. Like, no, it's a really good time. Everyone's just really cool. Like, you get to like remember like it's a huge thrill to me when I walk in a room and there's like a horror celebrity that I've met that remembers me.
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you remember me? Like, that's crazy. Like,
you're memorable. Come on.
But there's I don't know. It's just it's a big deal to a fan. When a fan is like, it's like, oh hey, how you doing? It's good to see you again. It's like, what? Like, how do you?
I think it's a big deal definitely. There was a few people. There was like 1 or 2 people that I had met before, and I haven't met a lot of people because I've not really done these things. But I think even when I was seeing VirtueCon, and just as much as it is for the fan, it's as much for the the horror celebrity or anyone for that matter. Because you're like, wow, this person really genuinely likes my work. Now, if it gets a little bit beyond that and they start following you around, it's weird.
I've seen people like get emotional and stuff like that because it's something that they made a big deal, like a big impact in them in their lives, and that must be huge. But
I have a new perspective on a lot of things ever since going to the convention in terms of because, like I said, I love horror, but not to the degree that I think some people do. And then to hear that perspective, it's really moving.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now I have a new love for it that I didn't think was ever possible just by experiencing it through other people.
Nice. Cool. Well, I'm happy for you. And, hopefully Terrifier 2 will be as awesome as I'm expecting it to be. I'm sure it will be.
I think it will be.
Yeah. I'm excited. And a lot of people are very excited. So, I don't think Damien will let anyone down. He's a very talented dude. And, Tony, where can people follow you?
You can follow me at Tony Has Nine Fingers on YouTube, where I do movie reviews, unboxings, anything movie related is on there. Tony Has Nine Fingers on Twitter, which I hardly ever use too. Kind of, I don't know why it's there. Tony's Movies on Instagram, where I show off the movies behind me. I did get my TikTok back, but I still don't do any twerking or anything on there. I don't know. It's just another outlet to show movies, indie movies. And, of course, here on the Wicked Horror Show on Tuesday nights. So, and we do have the Wicked Horror Show Instagram up. So check that out for guests coming on and past guests and stuff like that. And, Kevin, where can people find you?
Hey Knuckle on Instagram every Tuesday here. Also doing reviews with the 13th Wolfman over on the audio side. And I'm part of Black and White Fright and Secret Underground Hideout, all of which are on the Dorkening Podcast Network. So go to thedorkening.com for more information on all of those shows. Thanks for listening/watching, and goodbye. 1 second.